Hey there, science fans. We all know hydrogen peroxide, right? That brown bottle in your medicine cabinet. You put it on cuts, it fizzes, and you feel better. But did you know this stuff can also power rockets? No fooling. It's true. We're not talking about launching a giant spaceship to Mars here. But for smaller stuff, hydrogen peroxide is where it's at. Think jetpacks, rocket belts, even those little thrusters that keep satellites pointing the right way. Now, before you run to the medicine cabinet, hold your horses. The stuff we use to clean scrapes is super diluted. We're talking way stronger stuff for rockets. Almost pure hydrogen peroxide. This stuff is seriously powerful. So, buckle up, science fans. We're about to dive into the wild world of hydrogen peroxide, the rocket fuel you probably had in your bathroom. Believe it or not, using hydrogen peroxide for rocket power isn't new. Nope, we're talking way back to World War II. The Germans were experimenting with all sorts of crazy rocket technology back then. Hydrogen peroxide was one of their secret weapons. They used it to power pumps in some of their earliest rockets. And guess what? It worked. Hydrogen peroxide helped launch some of the first missiles ever built. But it wasn't just the Germans. After the war, everyone got in on the hydrogen peroxide action. The Americans, the British, even the Russians. They were all experimenting with this powerful liquid. Why? Because hydrogen peroxide is pretty amazing stuff. It's relatively safe to handle compared to other rocket fuels. And it's surprisingly powerful when you know how to use it. Okay, science fans, time for a little chemistry lesson. Hydrogen peroxide is like water on steroids. It's got an extra oxygen atom. That's H2O2, instead of just plain old H2O. Now this extra oxygen is itching to get loose. It wants to break free and become regular oxygen gas, the kind we breathe. All it needs is a little push. That's where a catalyst comes in. A catalyst is like a matchmaker for chemical reactions. It brings the hydrogen peroxide and a special metal together. Boom! The extra oxygen atom breaks free. This reaction creates a lot of heat. Like, a lot of heat. It also produces a bunch of steam, because remember, water is part of hydrogen peroxide, so you've got superheated steam expanding rapidly. That's a recipe for thrust. Section 4. The ups and downs of rocket fuel in a bottle. Now, using hydrogen peroxide as rocket fuel has its pros and cons, just like anything else. Let's start with the good stuff. First of all, it's clean. When hydrogen peroxide breaks down, all you get is steam and oxygen. No nasty smoke or toxic fumes. That's good for the environment, and for anyone standing nearby. Second, it's powerful for its size. Hydrogen peroxide packs a punch. It has a high specific impulse, which is a fancy way of saying you get a lot of bang for your buck. A little bit of hydrogen peroxide goes a long way. But now for the downsides. Remember how we said you need high concentrations of hydrogen peroxide for rocket fuel? Well, that stuff is dangerous. It can cause nasty burns if it touches your skin. And while it's more stable than some rocket fuels, it can still decompose if it's not stored properly. That means keeping it cool, dry, and away from anything that could make it go boom. Section 5. Tiny thrusters and keeping things straight. So, if hydrogen peroxide is so tricky, why bother using it at all? Well, for some jobs, it's the perfect tool. Take small thrusters, for example. Satellites use tiny thrusters to make small adjustments in space. They need to point their antennas the right way, or avoid space junk. Hydrogen peroxide is perfect for this because it's easy to control. You see, by controlling the amount of hydrogen peroxide flowing over the catalyst, you can control the amount of thrust. Need a little nudge? Just a trickle of hydrogen peroxide. Need a bigger push? Open the valve a bit wider. Rocket belts and jetpacks also use hydrogen peroxide. It provides short bursts of powerful thrust, perfect for making those amazing flights. Section 6. Thanks for sticking around. Well, there you have it. Science fans. Hydrogen peroxide. It's not just for cleaning cuts anymore. This amazing liquid has a wild side. A side that can power rockets and launch things into space. So, next time you reach for that brown bottle in your medicine cabinet, take a moment to appreciate the awesome power it holds. Just remember, leave the rocket science to the experts. Thanks for joining me on this explosive adventure. Keep on exploring, keep on learning, and always remember, science rules.